Shalom.
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 This is Voice of a Watchman here on the Sabbath. We do always thank and praise the Most High. Ahayah, bahashem, Yashayah, Barak. That we thank and praise Him for this truth. And we always do thank and praise Him for the ministers that His elect ministers and those whoever of you may be doing your work, the work that He's placed in you to do.
Yes, Most High.
Teaching and exhorting all men to follow the Most High in spirit and in the truth.
Awesome. Awesome. Shalom. All praises to the Most High. All praises. Welcome to another Sabbath lesson. Josh is teaching on stealing from the Most High. Stealing,
of course, we're gonna
from the Most High power.
We're gonna start with some scriptures. Tonight, that's like we always do.
Where we going, Josh, again?
We're going to 1 Peter 3:15.
Okay, so. First, Mr. Peter. The Peter. You know the Peter? You know Mr. Peter? Our brother Peter. 1 Peter 3:15. Let's get it? Okay? All right. Please listen and be blessed. You have it, Mary? Away from my wife.
So, this has been our
3:15. 1 Peter.
A short lesson tonight.
But sanctify the Most High power in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you.
We are always to be ready to give an answer or a well thought out explanation for why we believe in God in this subject, for this subject matter we've been discussing and ministering on the last couple lessons. So the topic is, how do you answer a non-believer or one who does not believe,
skeptic
in God? So
with meekness and fear.
So we are to meekly answer everything with a wise, well thought out answer to explain why we believe what we believe, not just saying we believe it because we believe it.
Having a good conscience.
So we have to know what we're saying.
Sincere conscience, right? Knowing, that's right. Whereas they speak evil of you, as of evildoers. So
if they speak evil of you, let them. As long as you're giving them the information they need.
That's right.
That you feel they need, that can convince them.
They may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Yashayah.
So we have to have a good conversation in Christ. When we communicate, especially to non-believers, we have to be very, very, very on point and understanding what they believe before they speak. While they speak, we have to understand why it is necessary for our worldview to be absolutely true.
Those who fix their conversation aright, I will show them the salvation of the Most High.
Go to Romans 1:19. Romans 1:19. Romans 1:19.
Okay, Romans 1:19. Romans 1. Okay. All right, take your time when you get it. Just say, praise him when you get it. Romans 1:19.
So we have to answer intelligently the questions of non-believers. And that doesn't just mean go to the Bible with a non-believer, because they're not going to believe in the book that you say you believe in anyway. So it's more about how can I convince you, philosophically speaking, and practically speaking, practical or living it out wise, why it is necessary for a God or a supernatural being to exist, for everything, for all. Why is it necessary and logical to believe that there absolutely is a God, although that point cannot be proven physically, because again, God is a supernatural force, a being that is supernatural, which means he is outside of the realm of what we can see, touch.
That's right.
With the five senses. So you cannot prove God physically, or God's existence cannot be disproven or proven physically. That's because good. He's out of the physical.
That's right. That's good, John.
So it's all about what philosophical worldview works and can be practically lived out without contradicting your intellect, intellectually contradicting yourself as you go along.
Because that which may be known
may be known. In other words, we have a conscience. That's talking about we have a conscience. Read.
Of the Most High is manifest in them.
So God has given every single person a conscience.
That's right. Come on.
Which includes our will, our moral compass, our self-knowledge, and our personhood.
Wow. For Ahayah has showed it unto them.
So God has shown himself informationally, because that's the topic we're talking about tonight. Information. God has shown himself intuitively to all men. Now, that doesn't mean all men will be saved, because all people have not recognized or, in a sense, accepted what he's shown them and are living by it. Right?
Right.
You have to accept and live by what he's shown you for him to accept you.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
He's just because he's shown himself. And when it says that, start the verse over.
Because that which may be known of Ahayah is manifest in them. For Ahayah has showed it unto them.
So how has he shown it to them? This is the first part of philosophical knowledge. God has philosophically shown himself to every man intellectually by the fact that we can reason. We talked about reason on last subject. Reason and logic. We can understand the world logically and reasonably, because we have a mind that was designed to work the way it works, and it did not come in. Our mind could not work if it was not created to do what it does.
That's right.
It cannot work by chance.
That's right. Because you have to make a choice. And that tells you right there there's a power. Okay. For the invisible things.
So the invisible, like the invisible things, the invisible, read.
For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world.
So the invisible things, that means the heaven, that's again, it's speaking about more philosophical things, invisible, like intelligence, love, envy, emotions. Our emotions are another tripwire that tells you that we are that God has made us, or something has made us to feel and operate the way we operate. And without that, all the invisible things don't mean anything.
For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world.
Now we're bringing in the physical realm, the material, the creation. Read. So God, without a creation cannot come without something creating it or forming it.
That's right.
A creation cannot come from nothing. All created things have to come from something. Read.
For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen.
Or what?
Clearly seen.
So when we see the sky, that points us to
mountains, water, ocean.
That points us to
people.
a intelligent mind that ordered everything.
That's right.
When we see fish, or when we look at fish, we understand that those things were made to be eaten. When we look at, again, creation comes from creation. Animal life never comes from non-animal life. Human life or mankind or life, our lives never come from a non-life. In other words, children don't come out of thin air.
Awesome, Josh.
So you have to have a creative being that initiates every form of life. Plant life comes from plant life. Animals come from animals. People come from people.
That's
so without that being initiating creation, initiating that, there is no reason for any of us to believe that our lives ultimately have any worth or matter. Because honestly, if all this is by chance and we are but byproducts of molecules in motion, materialism and evolution, and we just fall apart and we go to the dust, from dust you are to dust you return, and that's it. Ultimately, your life means nothing. Your moral compass is irrelevant. Your emotions are irrelevant. Your mind is irrelevant. And as we said, and as I will continue to say, nobody can live that way. No one can live that out practically, because everything you know, you feel matters to you, and you expect other people to consider your feelings and what you think logically as an objective truth to you. Objective, everything is objective in life. There is nothing that is relative. Everything must be objective to work. Read.
Wow. Okay. Being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and most high head.
So when we see the heavens, the heavens operate like they do.
The ocean, the stars.
The stars, when they form constellations, we know that points to a divine former,
architect.
Our architect that created those bodies, celestial bodies.
That's right. So that they are without excuse.
So when we see these things,
you can't be without
these things in form, like our topic tonight, they give us information that points us to an informer.
That's right. Come on. Because when they knew the Most High, when they knew, look at this, because that when they knew, they know, they reject, they glorify him not as the Most High, neither were thankful.
So when there is no real, now listen to this, there is no such thing as an atheist in the sense of practical living. There are atheists that believe they are atheists intellectually, but when it comes to living their life, they live their life as if everything they believe is objective, especially their view on the world. And I'm sorry to say, you cannot live as an atheist with objective, as if there are objective right or anything that's objective. if you really believe there is no God, you have to live as if your worldview does not matter.
Wow.
And I know that is impossible for some, because a person's worldview makes them who they are. And like we just read it, how our conscience informs us. We have inward knowledge. Our worldview forms everything, the way we interact with people, the way we marry, the way we raise our family, the way we raise our grandchildren, our children raise their children. Our worldview impacts every part of our life in ways that we don't even realize.
That's so true.
Right?
Yeah, Josh.
You have something to say about it?
No.
Yeah, you can add something to what I just said.
No, that's okay, Josh.
Because, again, I'll say that our worldview,
it,
the way we see the world, is for atheists and deists, our worldview informs us on how the world is and how we live in it. Without a God, there is no reason to believe that your life has any worth or meaning or matter. You can throw away all your opinions about preserving life, because that's all it becomes, is an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If it is true on a philosophically wise that God does not exist, then your opinion of atheism does not exist, because you know that you believe that your worldview is true, that you have found through science the answer to the world, to things, that how things work. You believe that through science you can figure out how things work, even to say that a supernatural force like a Big Bang created everything.
Wow.
See, your worldviews form everything about who you are. You cannot step out of your worldview and take something else and put it into your worldview if your worldview does not support that thing being a part of it. You cannot add to something that cannot be added to. Worldviews cannot be added or subtracted from. Okay, so
that's good, Josh.
Okay, I'll put the Bible down.
Okay.
I'm going into the book.
You want me to read? You can explain it.
I got it.
All right.
Tell
the name of the book again, Josh.
This is Stealing from God by Frank Turk. This is chapter 3, Information and Intentionality. Since the immediately
Hey, honey.
immediacy of such a mess. Okay.
Okay, Josh.
Okay, hold on. Forgive me.
Take it.
That is why when we are walking down the beach and you see John loves Mary scribbled in the sand, you don't assume a crab crawled out of the water and wrote that on the lapping waves somehow produced that message. You know, a mind is responsible somehow produced this message. You know, a mind is responsible. That is why the same inference archaeologists drew when they find ancient inscriptions. They don't conclude that it was a quantum fluctuation and that created the Rosetta Stone, which is a language teacher, Rosetta Stone. They conclude it was an intelligent human being because all of the prior evidence demonstrates that information only comes from minds. Right, and that's a good point. So basically, basically, whenever you see messages that are well written out, you don't assume that message just came from nothing. You know, messages come from messengers.
Awesome. That's
right?
It. Yeah. Good, Josh.
Whenever you see a love letter, you know that comes from a person who is in love. That letter didn't just come out of nothing and happen to be so well ordered so it can affect somebody's feelings. In those okay, one piece of evidence that Darwin was not unique, that Darwin did not have, was the unique message inside all living beings. The message far longer than a one diamond by Dr. Krauss or Roger. The message is written in a molecule called thermonucleic acid, or DNA. The DNA, Microsoft founder Bill Gates currently observed that human DNA is like a computer program. So our DNA is like a well-organized program that has all our genetic information within us. That's like what we read in Romans, that we have invisible information that is known to us, but we're not aware of all these invisible things. DNA, okay, like a computer program, but far more advanced than any software ever created. So the DNA that makes all the molecules that make up our DNA, that makes life possible for us, is more advanced than any computer ever made by a person. So when people observe DNA, when they open people up and look inside and they see their DNA strand, that strand of DNA has more information in it, in one molecule of it, than any computer, any phone, any man-made thing. Others have referred to DNA as a code, a program, a blueprint, instructions. How do you get instructions without an instructor, or a blueprint without a what do you call those people that draw up blueprints?
Engineers.
Architects.
Engineers. Architects.
How do you get a program without a programmer? Right?
Yeah.
All blueprints come from architects.
That's right.
Right? All programs come from programmers.
You know what that really means? A leader.
Right. All codes come from a coder.
That's right. So if the Most High we know is a leader, right? Awesome. So if he's the great architect, then everything had to come from him. Everything. If you see an airplane,
and several other,
someone had to make that airplane. Someone had to make that person that's driving that plane. Right?
In signature in the DNA cell, Dr. Mayer shows that the code expressed in DNA cannot be explained naturally, and provides positive evidence for the prior activity being activity of a designing intelligence. So this DNA researcher that this brother just quoted said essentially that there is no way that the DNA in our bodies came from natural from a natural source, because we can't even produce something that is near the information packed in one cell of our bodies, not to mention our entire body.
That's right. Wow.
Our bodies are technically the most advanced, if you want to say, computer ever created.
That is so true.
So, and I'll say that again, DNA cannot be explained naturally, and he provides positive evidence for a prior activity of a designing intelligence.
Hold on. And the greatest scientists and doctors in this world cannot still figure out the human mind. They can't.
That's true. Your mind is so advanced.
Nobody can.
And they, you know what they say? Adam was the only person who used his whole mind. We don't even use our whole mind, and we can be intelligent.
Wow.
If we actually use our whole mind, we could connect to God through our mind.
And you know what happens, Josh, with that? What you're really saying, I want to back Josh with this. Full truth knowledge is what makes your mind grow. Truth, not just knowledge. Not like worldly knowledge. That's as far as they go.
If you think
but when you got wisdom knowledge and the Most High's knowledge, your mind's going to grow.
If you think about it for just a minute, it is hard to find reasons to disagree with him. How can the blind forces of nature create a software code? Exactly. How can chance create order?
Yeah, chance is chance.
You don't expect
bang.
When you look at a computer, you don't think it just happened. You know immediately that some intelligent person, a computer designer, made the tower with all the motherboard and all the microchips to work exactly the way it works, right?
That's right, John.
That's what a software code is. A software code is put there by a software coder.
It's simple. It's simple because when they knew him, you see what that's saying? They really knew him, but they glorified him not.
Yeah,
they didn't want to hear it.
They would rather glorify their own mind.
Yeah. Wow. I think you said, hold on. There are Christians today that have this imaginary God in heaven. They do. They really do.
Yeah, that thinks that, you know.
Yeah, that's all right, Josh. Say it.
That God is just going to give them everything.
Go ahead. It goes a lot deeper than that, but that's good. That's good.
And what are your genetic material or genome? It is an information. Okay, let me read this.
Listen up. This is good stuff.
And that's what your genetic material or genome is. It is an information-rich text.
This is good, Mary.
That is a genetic message. Our DNA is a genetic message.
Wow.
In other words, your genome is a message like your name and address, except it is within DNA.
Wow.
And it is 3 billion characters long. And it is over 3 billion characters long.
What's the winning characters?
Like letters.
Wow.
Because in the old days, characters corresponded with letters. So
3 billion characters long. All over those letters, save a rare error, must be in the right order for you to survive.
Wow.
So if one thing did not exist in our DNA, we could not live.
Wow.
How did they get in order? By natural forces?
That's awesome.
Meyer shows in signature in the cell that the physical and chemical reactions mandates the argument for genetic letters as long as the spine of our DNA, physics and chemistry do not determine the order of genetic letters, and any more than physics and chemistry determine the order of the English letters in a sentence. Minds determine messages and codes. Natural forces do not. Just like what I said. Every time you see a blueprint, that came from an architect. Every time you see codes, they come from coders. Every time you see buildings, they come from builders. Right? And people think, oh, that's a God of the. No, it's really not. It's simple. It's logical. Whenever you see something that is intricately designed, logic will tell you that thing came from someone who made it. Things do not come out of nothing. It's impossible. I'm sorry, you cannot demonstrate that. Intelligence can never come from non-intelligence. And if you can, if it can, prove it. Prove it. Show me somehow in our life, in our physical existence of our experience, where some kind of intelligence comes from nothing. And I really want to be proven wrong, but the evidence shows that all information comes from an informer. Not once can information come from non-informative things. But couldn't be the first code of be simple when the nature is the longer code we see now. The problem is even a simple information rich sequence like, hey Roger, this is God, requires intelligence, and so-called simple life has a code such longer than that. Indeed, Richard Dawkins admits that the account of information in one cell life, like an amoeba, has as much information in its DNA as 1,000 Encyclopedia Britannicas. Excuse me. I'll say that again. I'll say that again. There is more information in one cell than in over 1,000 Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome, George. Tony, no wonder the word says we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
You know, I think when they get the greatest scientists can't figure the human mind and the heart, the whole body.
Even if
They
you
can work
grant
on it, but that's all.
that the first life was perplexing genetic information, how can blind forces of nature create new information necessary for the new body plants nurturing, and that existing information is not going to work because neutrons are nearly always harmful as long as how long it could take to destroy the meaning of this sentence. If it could stand the remedy sum of the letters around, how long do you think Microsoft Word would work if its code began to nurture randomly? The same is true about living things. They die when their codes are matured in any significant way. So randomness cannot produce any kind of information. Okay, so You can't have, like I just said, you cannot have randomness produce order.
It's like chaos. How can chaos
Produce order.
Yeah. Huh. So that's where they get their theory from. When someone murders, they murder because they felt like it. It was just something they wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Wow. I'm glad we don't have to live on those lines, Mary. Yeah.
Now I'm going to share a short dialogue from a chemist and a philosopher, Michael Rose and Mr. Mayer. Okay, so Mr. Mayer is a chemist. In other words, he studies chemistry. Mr. Mayer says, we are interested in evidence and arguments, and we think that the evidence strongly supports the reality of a prior designing intelligence. So this man understands that there is no way that essentially that any of this came out of nothing. He said the evidence supports that there is an intelligent designer. So this is like the Bible says. The information that is known of God is manifest in everybody, for He has shown Himself in everybody.
That's it. You clearly see.
We don't go further in identifying the designer. No, on the basis of the assumption, Mr. Ward. But how do you test that? How do you test? Because you can't test. Again, you can't test for that because that is a supernatural being. In the same ways, Mr. Mayer says, I mentioned previously, science cannot test the supernatural. And like I've been saying before, with everything, with the argument of does God exist, that is not an argument. That is not science. That is philosophical. Because again, science cannot test the supernatural. Science is based on the repeatability of natural forces. So therefore, you must have a natural force for science to work.
And they're always guessing in theories.
Mm-hmm.
So
this scientist says science cannot test the supernatural, but that's what we're advocating. Natural science cannot deal with that which you want it to go to. It is not science. So it is not science to try to use science to prove or disprove God. If your argument is true, Peter, then we would not be able to test the conclusion that the Rosetta Stone had been made by an intelligent agent rather than the wind or erosion. So you have to get intelligence from intelligence. Science cannot prove anything. Science does not say nothing. Scientists say things. Science cannot make a statement. A scientist makes statements. Mr. Mayer, Mr. Mayer, that again was not an argument. The point is we to test the inferences about the past against our knowledge and cause our self-structure and the world of the world we know from experience that intelligence produces information. So in other words, we don't need physical tests. We can look at our personal experience of life and we can see that information comes from intelligence, right? Information never comes from non-intelligence.
That's right.
You have to study things to get informed.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't come into life knowing things.
That's right. Research.
So information comes from informers. When we find information on the Rosetta Stone, we therefore infer that there was a intelligent cause at work that is testable against the backdrop of our knowledge of cause and effect experience. So again, cause and effect. All causes have effects. Don't make causes. An effect has to come from a cause. If you have a language teaching tool like Rosetta Stone, that language teaching tool came from linguists that know different languages and have put that tool together intelligently to teach you language. Rosetta Stone or language teaching does not just come from nothing. Again, with all the so far information that we've shared, causality,
Go ahead. Go through.
causality, reason, and information. There is more information in one cell of our bodies than 1,000 Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Wow.
And the Encyclopedia Britannica is the most information-packed volume of encyclopedias known to man. And imagine this: we don't even use a third of our mind. Adam used his whole mind.
That's why he named all the animals.
That's why he was able to name all the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was able to communicate with God directly.
And if we have it right, didn't animals speak at one time?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So,
hey, look, elephant. I don't like that name. No, come on. You got to call it elephant. Right, Tony?
Yeah.
Why? Because I got big ears? Yeah, you're an elephant.
You're Dumbo.
So when we look at our experience and the way we live, reason comes from reason. Causes come from causes that produce effects. Causes produce effects. When you cause something to happen, that cause will have an effect on you or people around you.
Yes.
Reason informs of us that we must live and operate reasonably. Without a mind that has informed us about a reasonable mind, there is no reason to trust reason or information. All that becomes pointless and meaningless if there is not a being that initiated and is the source of reason and information. All the information that we know is meaningless.
The word even says, come and let us reason together.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Right.
Excuse me.
So, again, God has revealed himself to all man intangibly and physically through creation, through our minds, God has revealed himself to all men intangibly, physically, and experientially. So there is no reason not to believe that all of this was designed by a designer. So
that's good, Josh. I've got a lot out of this lesson since Josh started it. I hope you have been listening since the beginning, Stealing from the Most High. Shalom again. Please get this book. This is really good. You really have to know what to say to agnostics. Anyone who's really, coming against the true word of the Most High. And a lot of times, I thought back in the past that I could just mention what I wanted to mention. It doesn't work that way. You have to know how to answer, right, Josh?
Mm-hmm.
You do.
So, until tomorrow, shalom.
Shalom.